My name is Derek Ibbott. I'm a furniture maker in Norfolk, UK, and my next project is making some legend brace doors from this lovely European oak. Okay, so the video is about 12 minutes long. Feel free to skip through any bits you don't want to look at. There are some finished images of the project at the very end. So to begin with, I'm cutting all the boards in half because I can get 2 lengths out of each plank just about. And then I go onto the table saw to cut a straight edge, and then I rip to a random widths to get the most amount of material out of each board. Then I go onto the crosscut to preliminarily cut the material square and to a given length. So then we're on to surface planing, and the idea here is to try and plane flat a good 2/3 to 3/4 of the board so that we've got a good level base to then put it through the thicknesser. And you'll see me in a moment just checking that the board is straight when I cast my eye over it on both sides. So here is the thicknessing. I'm taking about 2mm off on each pass. Takes several passes to get it down to the 28. So it's going down from 34 to 28, so it shows you how much you have to take off the boards to get them flat and to a given thickness. Then we've got edging, so I'm edging the boards to be straight and square along their length, and then I can mark up what widths I want the board. So I'm kind of selecting here to get my door material out, and then some of the work or some of the pieces I want for architraves and frames and door stops. So here I am cutting the doors out, and then the offcut here will probably go to either an architrave or a doorstop. So once I've cut all the door material out, I'm then going through the process of selecting. So these are the ledges, so I'm putting a 10-degree bevel on the ledges, and that will also be done on the ends when I cut them later on. Here are the architraves, so I'm putting the 45-degree bevel on, and then I'm using the shoulder plane just to take that sharp arris off. So it's something that I often do, and I feel it's worth it. It keeps a clean look, but at the same time just makes it feel a lot more tactile. So here are the frames, and I'm cutting everything to length now. And then cutting the little stub tenon and the groove in the header to be the joint at the top. Then it's just a case of taking those arises off to soften everything before the frames are then put together. Next is spindle moulding the grooves and the tongues. And then cutting the bead on both faces. Then everything goes through the sander, finishing off 180 grit to give a really nice finish. So back onto hand tools, I'm using the shoulder plane to put some micro bevels on the square edges. I could do this by machine, but I much prefer the look and the feel of doing it by hand. Another example of that process, so here are the ledges, and these have got a 10-degree bevel on them, but I'm still putting that micro bevel around the outside edge, including on the corners, and that would be really hard to do with any power tool. It's a lovely process and keeps your hand in with the tools, which I think is really important, and I just think it gives a lovely finish. So I'm using Osmo Poly-X oil here, the raw version, which has got a little white pigment in it to keep the oak looking as natural in tone as possible. I tend to either use this or Odie's, and this is the second coat actually, so it's just a case of applying it reasonably liberally and working it in, leaving it a few minutes, and then taking the excess off, finished by finishing off very evenly with the rag. So after all those steps, we're now ready to assemble the doors. Loads of work in this stage too. Takes about 2.5 to 3 hours per door to get it all together, to screw them, plug them, put the braces in. Site work now. So to begin with, carefully removing the old door frames and doors, taking all of the hardware off, which will be reused. Again, loads of work in getting these frames accurately plumbed up, level, packed. The doors were all ripped to width in the workshop with a taper on both edges. So once I was on site, it was then a case of cutting to length and then hand planing them in just to get the gaps about right. What I'm doing here is just putting a rebate on the back edge of the architrave so that it can go over the T of the hinges. So I'm just cutting the edge or the outer edge with a tenon saw and then taking out the waste with the router. Now I'm using my domino machine to put 2 small dominoes into each mitre, and this works really well to keep them level and will hopefully stop them from twisting in the future. And then I use a beefy screw in the corner to hold it together. No glue needed. For this door frame, as the walls were so out, I decided to make a wedge-shaped return on the outer edge, which would be scribed to the wall. You'll see it on the other side later on, but this had to be put in before the architrave was fixed in place. So here is the other side of the door frame and the wedge piece required for this side. As you can see, I've packed it out, and then once this has been pinned in, I can then apply the, or then fit the front piece of architrave. This finished flush on the outside and with a standard step to the inside of the frame. So most of the door frames were made to various widths, and the narrower ones I was able to fix in behind the door stops. The ones that weren't though were simply plugged with a piece of oak and then pared down with a chisel. Lastly, final coat of oil was applied where needed, and a little bit of wax put into all the nail holes, and then a final once over to make sure all was well. So here are some of the 6 finished doors. Really enjoyable project and super lovely people to work for. Okay, I hope you liked the video. If you've got any questions, please either drop them in the comments below or via email, either is fine. And I look forward to sharing the next project with you.